Good evening, and welcome to Having a Drink with Mink 15,000. What's that? No, it's not the amount of drinks that I've had today. 15,000 is the number of old guys who like old comics in our Facebook group. We broke a new record, folks. It's pretty fantastic. When I started this whole crazy thing off 7 years ago, I had no idea that it was going to go the way it did. If you've ever wondered how it started off, the whys, the wherefores, the whenfores, by all means, stick around. Make yourself a beverage, a hot, tasty snack. Maybe make one for your friend. And let me tell you about the old guys who like old comics. That's right. It all started off in 2013, and I didn't know what to do. The past few years had been rough. My wife and I had been married for less than a year when circumstances dictated that we leave our home and move over an hour away to a different state. I ended up renovating a house that needed new walls, new floors, new ceilings, pretty much the works. But I didn't mind. In spite of the seemingly endless effort, I was excited at the prospect of a fresh start and new opportunities for myself and my family. At the time, I was working from home. My wife was working towards getting her degree, and the kids were in school. So I ended up having a lot of free time during the day, especially, compounded by the specific loneliness that comes from leaving everything that you know and love behind. I really began to ache for companionship. And when we get lonely, we often turn to these things. Now, I discovered a friend had created his own Facebook pop culture group. The focus was wide, as much about music, movies, and culture as my particular interest, old comic books. As time went on, I found myself contributing more and more to his group and groups like it, but I was often at odds with other members who seemed like they were, I don't know, looking to pick fights or had something to prove. After being kicked out of a few of these groups, an idea slowly came into focus. No, not that it was all my fault. What if I created my own group? One that was designed with my own aesthetic and sense of humor in mind. Even better, what if it was dedicated exclusively to old comic books? Would that fly? And what the heck would I call it? Well, that problem more or less resolved itself. Unlike other groups I'd attempted to start in the past, this one wouldn't have some cool or abstract name opaque to those on the outside. Instead, I went the literal route, and I called it just what it was meant to be. Old guys who like old comics. Oh, sure, I could have gone with love, but I felt that might have taken things in a different territory. I wasn't trying to recruit extremists or mouth-breathing fanboys, nor was I trying to establish some unshakable sort of cultural street cred that I could lord above others. This wasn't going to be a place where people got into pissing contests over minutia or attacked each other over differing opinions. This group was going to be for the jovial and the laid back, for folks who still laughed out loud when they read their comics. Old guys like a wink and a smoke and a drink and a joke. That became my mantra early on, and it is to this day, let me tell you. And so it was, I cautiously put together a list of potential members, and I sent out the invites. This was the first image that new members would see. I wish I'd thought to take a screen grab of the page, but it was early days, and I figured a dozen people joined. I'd be thrilled. The first post was a welcome from the Super Adaptoid, which might seem strange, but hey, he's always been a favorite. I started uploading old comic images with silly captions, classic covers, and just some old corny ads, and had fun with it. I advertised Old Guys Who Like Old Comics a few times in my friends' groups and mentioned it on one or two other pages, but that was it. I couldn't have possibly imagined what would happen next. By December, the group had reached 100 members. Now, this seemed like quite a feat, as I only had a handful of friends on Facebook, and only a percentage of those were comic fans. Still, the people who had joined the group really seemed to enjoy it, and they told their friends and colleagues. We hit 200 shortly after that, and 300 wasn't far off. Before I knew it, Facebook was actually trying to get me to buy ad space, which seemed kind of odd. Every day new people were applying to be in the group. Why would I pay? To my delight, the group continued to grow, and soon I was spending hours every day just creating content for the members. I did a lot of parody ads and posted lots of out-of-context panels, as well as starting the alphabet of old comics and other games created to foster group engagement. As the group grew, so grew the need for rules. Would you believe that there were no rules at first? Every rule that you see today was created as a consequence of something that occurred in the group. There were personal attacks, profanity-laden rants, tirades about social issues and politics, as well as weirder stuff like objectionable group art and dinosaur porn. No, I'm not kidding. As we hit 500 members, it was clear that the Old Guys Who Liked Old Comics was more than just another Facebook group. It had become a vital and energetic community. I found that I didn't really need to do as much, as members themselves began contributing their own unique takes on the page and creating entertaining and engaging dialogue that I was happy to simply sit back and enjoy. Certain members in particular showed a lot of initiative. Jared Ray Scott Ramey designed our ubiquitous Old Guys Who Like Old Comics stamp. Folks responded enthusiastically to the new design. Not only did they belong to a group of like-minded individuals on Facebook, but now they could identify one another in movies, stores, and conventions. The image appeared on t-shirts, mugs, and bookmarks, signaling that a new phase of the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics had begun. If that wasn't enough, I'd soon be approached by group member Mike Jones with a compelling proposition. Mike published his own anthology comic and wondered if we'd partner with him. Now, the entire time that Old Guys Who Like Old Comics had been in existence, we'd talked about comics. In fact, the group was privileged enough to have a number of comics professionals among our members, but never had it occurred to us to actually publish our own comics. Admiring Mike's moxie and out-of-the-box thinking and being more than a little bit flattered, I said, "Sure, why not?" Before I knew it, the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics seal adorned Yeet Presents, a truly unique and notable anthology comic that deserves a video all unto its own. Mike was excited at the prospect of including some of my comics parodies, and in short order, He Wanted Me in Mylar appeared. Seeing my story about one man's comic obsession in print brought this old guy's comic experience full circles. This led to a long and fruitful relationship with Mike and Yeet Presents that continues to this day. If you follow the link below, you can get the latest issue and get on board for the next one, which contains Storm Isle 4 by myself and Eric Luna Salazar. Circumstances changed yet again, and in 2017 I found myself starting life anew in Pittsburgh. I struggled to find my footing, but the group was always there to help me take my mind off my troubles. Membership grew rapidly, and all by word of mouth. I never paid a dime for advertising. Soon we passed 10,000 members, and it was about this time that I began to seriously slow the growth. As one former member of the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics had said, the group was fun to the point of ruination. It had become clear, to me at the very least, that too much of a good thing could kill the magic, and keeping the balance was proving to be a tricky thing. The first generation of OGs slowly peeled away, unhappy at the loss of their once intimate community. With the growing popularity of comic movies, there was an influx of folks less interested in old comics and more about talking about what was happening in the now and changing what had already worked to suit their needs. There was constant calls to change the group's time limit from 1986 or to do away with it whatsoever. People busted my chops about not being able to sell or promote their products. I was threatened, harassed, and cursed by an increasingly hostile tide of folks who felt the group should be run for their benefit and not yours. That said, through it all there was a solid group of upbeat and responsive members who let me know that they appreciated the daily effort that went into running the operation. Sadly, those who were out to pee in our communion wine ended up causing me to have to set all posts to be approved, which killed a lot of the spontaneity and fun of the early years. But I simply couldn't risk it. Groups were being shut down left and right over minor things like nudity. I didn't want to try and log on to the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics one day to find the group had been shuttered by Facebook because some guy had decided to go and post a boob or something. I found myself less being the dude who showed up with the beer and more being the one who had to safeguard the existence of a community from the parapets while everyone else partied. But thankfully, I wasn't alone. Soon I had a team of excellent moderators who loved the group as much as I did. Thanks to Anthony, Wayne, John, and my brother Dennis, the group was soon humming along, and I was able to focus my attention on a different project. Mike Jones had long been talking about Old Guys Who Like Old Comics TV, but it wasn't until April of 2019 that the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics network made its inauspicious debut on the YouTube platform. Like everything else, we started off small, but as of now, we have over 100 videos. There's interviews, there's documentaries, unboxings, along with many hours of yours truly talking about his favorite subject, old comics. So, what's next for the old guys? Plenty. In the next few months, Dennis and I are going to be rolling out the next phase of the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics network. We're talking live streams, watch parties, and so much more. Once this health risk is resolved, you can bet I'll be out there at shows, rubbing elbows with each and every one of you, discussing the subject we love. And as for the group itself, you can expect the same original art from our members' collection, hilarious videos of kids reading their parents' comics, aggro posts with vintage books next to frosty drinks, and so much more. As for me, well, you can bet you'll find me there, rain or shine. Oh, sure, I may not approve your posts. I may not always have something funny or informative to say, but you can rest assured that myself and my crack team of ad moderators will continue to make this the best goddamn Facebook group about old comics that there is. It's Old Guys Who Like Old Comics. Thanks for being a part of it. I'm Jason Mink. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the network by purchasing a breathing mask from the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics swag shop. A portion of every sale goes to No Kid Goes Hungry and helps keep you and those OGs you love safe during the troubling times. Be well and read more comics.